Bonjour class, my name is Jameer Boutte. I'm a junior political science major from Compton, California. My origins are from Louisiana, New Orleans to be exact. I still have family that reside there, so when we got presented to do this project, it stuck to me very closely. Okay, so the Louisiana Slave Database is what we did our project over. I personally did from the years 1717 to 1721. During these years, it was showed that a large amount of slaves was purchased in the Louisiana area and transported there by the French people. Okay, we're gonna move on. The introduction is the French brought over a variety of slaves. It was a diverse group of slaves, but the majority of slaves were black, according to figure 1 in my graph, and we're gonna get into that a little bit later. They came with majority of black slaves. They had mixed heritage, which are mulatto, and some Indians and Creoles, and it was a pretty large amount of slaves that had went missing, according to the database. The slave database includes race, origin, runaways, sex, and their skill traits, and these are what my charts are showing here. Okay, so now getting into figure 1. Figure 1 shows runaways. It's a chart based off of runaways, and it shows according to the slave database, that about 1,000, maybe more, have actually tried to run away from the slave plantations, and you have about 200 that had contemplated running away, and then about 100 are in between, so had complained about the slaves running away. I believe some of these slaves complained about them running away because they either got accused or blamed for those who actually escaped or ran away. Moving on, we're going on to the chart for origin. This pie chart shows a different variety of slaves. It could be anywhere from black to Creole, Indians, and Anglos. We can see that the French brought over a very diverse group of slaves according to this chart. Okay, now we can move on to figure 3 chart. My figure 3 chart is showing, again, race. Within the race, you can see about 84 to 85% of slaves were actually black. About 5% were mixed, or Creole as you want to say, and 10% of slaves were unidentified or were missing according to data and charts. If we move on, we can see that a very large amount of slaves' sex were males. There's about 50% of males that were transported to the Louisiana area, and about 40% were female, and once again you have the 10% that were missing. Within the sex region, male was more dominant to bring to the Louisiana area based on their labor, their hard labor, and how hard they worked. They could actually bring in money for the slave plantations for the masters. The women, they did more of like the nourishing and kept the family, the master's family happy, cooked for them, clean, more household things. If we go over here to this chart, this is my skills chart. It shows right here just a large amount of their skills were domestic. During the research, I was looking into the slave database. A lot of the slaves were categorized in how good they performed their tasks. If they performed their tasks well, then they were mainly put in those areas to work. The domestic area being 30, maybe 32, 33%. So it was very demanding. Then you had some slaves that did crafts, agriculture, and then they did land transport. Land transport consisted of carrying water from the lakes and things in that search. within going into my conclusion, I was basically just reiterating that a large amount of blacks were transported from the African countries, about 84 to 85%. Then you have about 5% were other races, other origins of slaves, and then you have the 10% that was missing from that. In total, it was about 2,000 slaves that the French had brought over to the Louisiana area, and